Shalom. Kol halalim la Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, elder bishops of Great Millstone, that rule well, and Shalom to the prophets of that body. Okay, and peace and blessings to the 144,001/3. Okay, may peace and blessings be upon your households. Right? There's a couple of channels that have popped up or have been around for a while. Some of them recently, some of them have been around for a while. And it's all surrounded around the so-called Big Brother world, being watched, being under surveillance, freedoms, freedoms being signed off, and a lot of individuals out there, of a political background, or your regular Joe six-pack Edomites are, wanting to go against want to go against the powers that be, Danger to freedom and privacy. Keir Starmer announces ID cards in Britain. Britain joins China and North Korea as it announces ID cards. Okay, this is from about 3 days ago. All right, check this out. Look what people are saying. All right, do not consent to digital ID jail. Digital ID never. 2 generations of British people fought for our freedom. I will not throw their sacrifice aside. Mass non-compliance. Okay. We need to stand together and just say no to this. Nobody voted for this. All right, don't. Okay. Right. There's a common theme there, right? Before I play the video, I'm just gonna go to some scriptures, and it's getting to that point where people, right, are coming together, right? Something called sedition. Men are coming together, talking about what they're gonna do. They're fed up about the powers that be. Okay, what is sedition? All right. Definition of sedition: conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. Right? And people already don't like Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer's been kicked out of numerous, well, at least I've seen him get kicked out of a pub, right? By the landlord, by the owner of the pub. He was fuming, he was vexed. He didn't want Keir Starmer in his establishment. He said, "Get the hell out of my pub. I don't want you drinking in my pub. I don't want your money." Okay? So there's a lot going on. People are not liking Trump. People don't like the monarchy. People don't like Keir Starmer. People don't like their kings, their leaders, right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Verse 15. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Okay, this is going to lead to that. There's going to be mass non-compliance. Some people are going to give in when it really gets tough out here, because people think it's just going to be some kind of political, back and forth. There's going to be a little hoopla. It's going to be on the news. If you go back, I think it was the 80s or the early 90s when the poll tax was introduced. All right, another form of tax in the UK. People were smashing up parts of London. Right? I don't know how far they're going to go with this one, but it'll probably go to that sort of level as well, where people do not want this digital ID. Okay, because what's been discussed is actually, I'll go into that in a second. Okay, people don't want digital ID. They don't want to be under surveillance. They want to deal with things as they've used in this video on an analog basis, which means, like the old school way, because a lot of people don't have access to tech like that and aren't even tech savvy. All right, it's only Gen Z that's pretty much tech savvy to us, for the most part. Gen X, is partially tech savvy. Most of us know how to use a computer on a basic level or a phone on a basic level. But what about the older generation that still like to hold cash in their hand, that like to visit a bank or a post office to pay their bills? It's going to be a problem for them to do everything digitally. All right, because a lot of them, never ever, they still don't have a mobile phone. If they do, it's a very basic mobile phone going back 20 years. Those kind of mobile phones that we had in the early 2000s, 2001 to 2006, the smaller ones, which we could simply send a text or receive a call or make a call. That's as far as they go for most part. So it's going to be a problem for them, right? So people are not having it. People are not having it. So woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. They don't want to submit to the powers that be. Uh, Lack of jobs, frustration, vexation, the situation regarding migrants. Okay, people are just fed up with life, so people are getting pissed off. All right, they're just adding more fuel to the fire, so to speak. All right, for there shall be sedition among men. And what sedition? Sedition is conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. Right? For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. As you can see, they already hate these Keir Starmers and Trump type people. Kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right? They're going to have checkpoints, roadblocks when you go from one place to the next. Okay? If you don't have the ID, you're not getting in. All right? If you want to work, you won't be able to. You've got to have that digital ID. If you want to maneuver around, you won't be able to, maneuver around. You need digital ID. You can be tracked wherever you go. All right? Everything's going to be literally in the palm of your hands. They want it in your phone. But once it goes in the phone, then what's going to happen? The phone could be stolen. People could sell their phones and report it stolen. And then somehow some technical whiz kid can get those phones and keep them going, and the digital ID can be doctored or whatever. I don't know how they're going to do it because I'm not a technical whiz. And then those phones could be sold to so-called illegal immigrants or people that are evil, or unsafe, evil type characters or whatever, right? Those phones can be sold. So it's still not foolproof in terms of ensuring who's who. So therefore, it's going to move from the phone to where? Into your flesh. Because they're going to come out with some kind of loophole or some kind of situation very soon where the phones will not be enough. All right? This is called gradualism. Okay? It's like, all right, I'm lucky for this. I'm trying to get to a point. It's gradualism. Like I'm in my late 40s, right? You've seen things slowly change around you. Sometimes you don't realize it because we're so engrossed in life and dealing with things on a day-to-day basis, right? I was looking at some footage from 1997 of certain areas around London where I grew up. And I saw the footage of 1997, just 28 years ago. I was in my early 20s. And I saw the cars, the phone boxes, the streets, right? And how people dressed, how people moved back then. And it was like damn near vintage footage. It looked crazy. It looked like, I said, damn, look how old the police cars look. Look how old those cars look. Look how the streets look. It was like a shock, thinking, God damn, it's a huge change. But when you think about it, it was done so slowly. I mean, really, it was done quite fast because it's only 28 years, right? 28 years ago, 1997. But then I thought to myself, man, it's such a huge shock when you just do it a side-by-side comparison of 1997 and 2025 of that same location around London, or even locations in general. It was like a huge shock. But you don't realize it over time because it's gradualism. Okay? So this is the same thing they're doing right now. It's gradualism. You're just kissing more of your freedoms away. And what the so-called white man's going to kiss his freedoms away because why? The way they see it is the powers that be are going to have their foot on the brown man's neck, all right, or the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man's neck, or the Israelites' neck, no matter, wherever they're scattered to the four corners of the earth. Okay? So they'll kiss their freedoms away. But now the so-called white man's feeling the heat. They're being hated. People don't like them no more. A lot of their crimes are being brought up, but these crackers are trying to brush it under the rug. Okay, they're trying to say la 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 la. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Making me feel guilty. White guilt. White guilt. But nah, Okay, the skirts are being lifted, the truth is coming out. All right? So there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. You won't be able to cross borders, so-called borders, you know? You won't be able to go from one place to the next. Okay, you're going to be secluded. Now, if you live in a certain part of the UK and you've got to drive 10 miles or catch a train or bus or whatever, and I don't know, use public transport, and you have to go 10 to 15 miles by public transport, it might be a problem if you don't have the ID cards. Okay, and now there's going to be with this. Well, once this goes into full fruition, comes into fruition, this digital ID on 100% level, there's going to be people out there that are going to be using their skills to create fake digital IDs, and they're going to be sold on the black market. The same way you can buy drugs, guns in the UK, other illicit things, right? They're going to do the same thing with a digital ID. And then what they're going to do, because these powers that be, got their agents, their tech whizzes, because they cause the damn problems, man. They cause all these fucking blackouts and motherfucking cyber attacks and shit. You think we don't know how these devils are? This devil is cunning. Problem, reaction, solution. They do it all. Okay, and their solution is ultimately to put a CHIP in you and control your ass. Okay, put a CHIP in your hand or your head and control you and own you. All right, and they want to be God over you. All right, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right, verse 18. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. It's going to get to that point. The haves and have-nots, and the people that don't want to submit to this damn devil, right? They're going to be taking from the people that have it. They're going to say, shit, I'm not taking the CHIP, but I want to take from you, It's going to get to that point, right? It's going to get to that point. And one thing they also mentioned in the news footage, they said that if you do not submit to their ways or you do something wrong, they could turn off the digital ID. They could turn it off. So they already know that the digital ID can be turned off. All right. So they basically got you by the the balls. It's like that movie. What's that movie, man? With Will Smith and they got whole spiritual fire. Spiritual fire. Spiritual power. I mean, Salaki, spiritual power. And Will Smith is Deadshot. What's the movie called? Movie with Will Smith, and he's called Deadshot. Suicide Squad. That's it. In Suicide Squad. Do you remember all the characters are monitored? If they do something wrong, they got something around their neck. If they try to escape, they could be blown up. Yeah. Yeah. That's how they pretty much got you. They could turn off this. They could turn off the technology. Even if you got digital ID and it's in a phone, they could turn it off if you do not adhere to their ways. And if people are taking the CHIP, you're not going to be home free. All right, you're going to turn it off anytime they feel like it. If you don't listen to their ways, all right. And men shall be afraid. Verse 19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with a sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. So get to that point, all right? Lack of jobs, no money. Some people will submit because they want that optimism and that normalcy back. A lot of people don't want to submit to that bullshit, so they're going to be taking from the people that have it. It's going to be a whole bunch of shit going on, man. All right? You can't emphasize how horrible it's going to be enough. It's going to be very, very horrible. All right? I'm gonna read. Let's just watch it. It's not long. It's about 8 minutes. All right, I'm just gonna play it now. Fair use. I'm not making no money out of this, so I'm just gonna play it. Here we go. I don't want to slow it down because time is of the essence. Let's just play it normally. There we go.
Morning, Mike. Thanks. A very good morning to you. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me here.
No, not at all. Good to see you. I mean, there's some truth, I think, to the suggestion that this has all been thrown out there in haste, because I know they've been talking about it for a while. But looking at the detail of it, there seems to be an awful lot of holes in it, right? I'm with you, and I take your points that you're going to make about the danger that this could possibly cause to our freedoms and our privacies, and I'm absolutely with you. But when you read things like, will be subject to consultation as far as the practicalities of the scheme are concerned, including how it will work for those in the UK without a smartphone or a passport. Well, if it doesn't work, if you haven't got a passport, how's it going to work for the illegal migrants?
Exactly the case. This has got nothing to do with stopping illegal migrants, Mike. We know that in France,
a lot of people, they can see the fact that they're using certain slogans and titles that makes people, light up, especially those racist Edomite crackers. When they talk about migrants and stopping the boats coming in and all that nonsense, all that bullshit, right? People light up saying, "Yeah, stop the migrants." Okay, but it's not really going to stop them, because the migrants, there's something called, listen, most things can be cloned. There's technology out there that can be utilized. There's whiz kids out there, people that have that kind of savvy to clone technology, use mobile phones, AI technology, the way they used to, like, if you see old school movies where they used to put a fake face over somebody else's ID to make it, to make the ID, and then they'll laminate it to make it look real. The same way they can do that in digital form today. All right. So ultimately, there's always a loophole. Okay. And as mentioned earlier, Esau has his teams of people that do that kind of shit, cyber attacks. They do it all. I'm sure some people do it not, do it for the heck of it because that's their thing. But Esau does have his uh, groups and pools of people that are scattered around the world doing these kinds of things. All right. There were teams of people doing this problem, reaction, solution.
Italy and Germany, they have ID schemes, and they have hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants that they're sending back or they're not stopping, and they have issues with them. The idea that the ID is going to stop them is preposterous. It's insulting. It is true that Labour Together's plan for a brick card says that it will be till around 2027, and we know it would need to go through Parliament. There will be all sort of measures. Unless they did some mad emergency act, they can't just impose it like next week.
Yeah.
However, that's why it's so important now that we really thrash out all these key issues, because you say you're absolutely with me on these points on privacy, but I think if you say to the British public right now, if we can stop the boats and we can stop crime, would you do something? Those that aren't looking into all the detail of it may be minded to do it. It's convenient, it's going to stop fraud, stop crime, but let's look at.
There you go. People that aren't so technologically wise will go ahead with it. Okay, it's convenient, it's seamless. Um, you don't need to carry a whole bunch of keys with you, a whole bunch of things in your pocket. Wallet full of cash and bunch of cards. Everything is in one mobile phone. You can open your car with your phone or your thumbprint at the moment. You can open your front door with your thumbprint at the moment. Some people actually have taken the CHIP and using it right now as we speak. All right, okay. So they're making it convenient. A lot of people say, yeah, in the UK especially, these regular crackers, it's Joe Sixpack crackers. They'll just take it, saying, you know what, it's going to stop the wogs and the nignogs, racist talk. It's going to stop the wogs and the ninjas. Let's just take it. It's going to help our country, bring Britain back to the top. Let's take it. And some people that are looking into it, that understand where it's going, they're not going to take it. There's going to be a big tug of war. Just watch when this thing really, when they roll this out, on full scale, is going to be a massive tug of war. All right.
The numbers, hundreds of millions of data breaches consistently across social media, and that's with people who are good at tech, not the government.
Yeah.
The Gov UK wallet, we know that millions got on the NHS app just to get a GP appointment because you can't get that. And a bit like during COVID and lockdowns, they told us that these COVID apps,
and elderly can't even get a doctor's appointment. GP is your general practitioner. NHS is the National Health Service. Right? The elderly, a lot of doctor's surgeries, you can't even call up, make an appointment anymore. You have to use an NHS app. And a lot of elderly don't have an app. Okay? All right. Like, for example, if an elderly person in my family needs an appointment, I've got to jump on the app and make the appointment for them, because lots of doctors' surgeries don't do that anymore. There's a couple still left that are old school that still work in the same way. Okay, if you call before 10 a.m. in the morning, you can have an appointment the same day. If you call past 2 p.m. in the afternoon, they can give you an appointment for the next day or whenever you need it according to your schedule, right? Whether it's a child or an older person or a middle-aged person or a young person, if you need a doctor's appointment, you can get it. But most doctors' surgeries are moving towards everything digital, and it's making a lot of people frustrated. A lot of elderly saying that I don't know how to use this technology. I want a damn appointment. Okay, all right. So as mentioned, everyone's not tech savvy, so it's going to be it's becoming a problem. Okay, and ultimately, if someone's not tech savvy, how can they bypass all this? Okay, it'll be easier. They'll just take a CHIP. If they're not clued up about it, which means all they've got to do is scan it wherever they go. They won't have to do much, all right, in terms of using their brain, all right, typing in codes and just passwords and shit. They'll just simply scan, you know.
These vaccine passports would somehow do something. Told us that and a bit like during COVID and lockdowns, they told us that these COVID apps, these vaccine passports, would somehow do something about COVID and lockdowns. No, what it would do is restrict us more and not have anything to do with the actual issue. And this is exactly the same again. It's, on the one hand, it is an attempt to make a big news piece because there's a concern about Andy Burnham challenging Keir Starmer. There's a concern about funding that's come in with Labour together, we should say, the people who've put this forward with McSweeney. So there are concerns that Labour's got. They've got their conference. Mike, at the conference this weekend, togetherdeclaration.org and Farmers to Action are going to be doing a big rally. Farmers to Action have been rallying for a month across Britain. We've also got a campaign, a challenge against digital ID. We're going to be bringing our voices to Labour Party conference on Sunday, making sure everyone hears about it. The crucial things are these, Mike. Over the last year or two, we've discussed these things. Debanking, two-tier policing, people being imprisoned or having police come around their house because of social media posts. The questions of low traffic neighbourhoods and clean air zones where we've had bogus reports around net zero, and then we've had fines and surveillance of cars and limits and restricting them. All of these things underpinned by a central digital ID would just become far worse. Not just Graham Linehan arrested at the airport, but actually people being able to perhaps switch you off directly. We know that
You heard that? Yeah, you could be switched off directly. See, they already know that. Okay, yeah, digital ID, and they haven't mentioned the RF to the ID yet. Okay, but I haven't seen all of it yet. They haven't mentioned the RF to the ID yet, but they know that the digital ID can be switched off. Okay, they can control you.
To perhaps worse, not just Graham Linehan arrested at the airport, but actually people being able to perhaps switch you off directly. We know that the CEO of the Bank of International Settlements has said, but the central bank digital currency using digital ID would be fantastic because we can track every transaction. In Britain, we don't want to be a papers, please society. Winston Churchill made that point in 1952. It would set us free to get rid of a national ID system. And Tony Blair and the Tony Blair Institute has been trying to implement this for so long. And now Keir Starmer is so desperate, his party and his government are so split. And we're saying that everyone should get involved. Get involved with togetherdeclaration.org. We've got campaigns and protests around the country. People can lobby their MPs. Obviously, we've got a councillors vote again in May. It's going to be very important. And many are coming out, many from the centre, from the right and the left, as it happens, all saying they're opposed to digital ID.
Well, we were saying earlier, Nigel Farage and Jeremy Corbyn sort of united against it, which tells you something. But I listened with slight incredulity and horror yesterday to Peter Cardwell's show. He had a guy called Ivan Sampson on, who's an immigration lawyer, a human rights lawyer, who was saying how important it is to stop these illegal migrants from coming into the country. But he also said, right, He said, now, if you've got one of these ID cards and you want to go shopping, you can go to Tesco's and you can buy your stuff and that'll be fine. But if you haven't got one, you won't be able to. And I'm going, hang on a minute. What if you don't want one of these things? There's no suggestion of what would happen, whether there's a fine for not having one. There's a suggestion that there could be a fine if you don't update your details. But what on earth are we doing?
Basically, if you don't have it, you can't do anything. You can't work, you can't go shopping, you can't travel, okay, without digital ID. Okay? It's basically going to hinder you. And if you don't want to be tracked, you just want to be left alone. You want to be, like in the Wild West, you want to be free, you know? You don't want to be tracked. You just want to be roam free. It's not going to happen. All right? And the UK is already a kind of it's a police state anyway. Probably the UK is probably like one of the places in the world with the most CCTV cameras. I think China's probably got the most, but UK is close second, I believe, right? But the UK is known for having a whole bunch of CCTV cameras, constantly tracked. This is going to lead to further tracking.
In a society, if you're saying to people you won't be allowed to go food shopping unless you've got an ID card.
Absolutely, and it's being presented not just for food shopping at supermarkets, but for renting, for working, for a whole array of vital things. We're told it will really help with services. My mum's not using digital ID.
Right.
She has to go to the bank and do it all in an analog way. There are millions of older people. There are all sorts of other people who are not connected to digital ID, nor should we have to be. The idea that to engage and participate in society, you have to have biometric proof. And this is exactly the same argument about the Online Safety Act, Mike, right? They're saying it's to protect children, but what it will end up doing is, like in Australia, forcing all adults to have a digital ID biometric engagement just to log onto the public square now. And we've seen, even in the last week, Mike, Marks and Spencer's, Heathrow grounded. We've seen the 19,000 Afghanis, data breaches. We've seen them in New South Wales. We've seen them in Estonia, where they're saying, look how great it is. Millions of people's data breached. We've seen Aadhaar with 1.4 billion in India, where people are having their data sold.
Right.
It's a travesty for our privacy. The British public we must discuss this much more. We're all pushing back. We'd encourage everyone to get involved in togetherdeclaration.org. This is the key fight now for everyone in Britain. And as you say, it doesn't really matter whether you're left, centre or right. On this issue, we can all unite against it.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because the cyber attacks alone, I mean, Jaguar Land Rover, in the paper today, we're being told that the government might have to go and buy a load of their spare parts just to keep them going. Because they're apparently, they're literally sort of 1 week from collapse. They haven't made any cars for about 2 months. And then apparently, the government might have to, the cyber attacks alone, I mean, Jaguar Land Rover, in the paper today, we're being
talking about Jaguar Land Rover, almost about to collapse as well. So, man, the Lord is just pulling apart Esau's kingdom, piece by piece. Kind of reminds me of, if you've seen the movie Smokey and the Bandit with Buford T. Justice, when he says to Burt Reynolds, I said something like, I'm going to pull your ass apart piece by piece. Something like that. It's a funny movie. That's the way Lord is just pulling apart Esau's kingdom piece by piece.
being told that the government might have to go and buy a load of their spare parts just to keep them going, because they're apparently, they're literally sort of 1 week from collapse. They haven't made any cars for about 2 months, and then talking about not making any until the 1st of November. And that is the problem, as you say. I mean, these are people that understand tech, and they understand how the modern world of social media works. The government, as Mark, our last voice note has said, are completely useless when it comes to this stuff.
Absolutely. So there's loads of concerns there. And let's look at what happened in Portugal and Spain when there was a power cut. And we know with net zero, there are more and more concerns around blackouts and power cuts. How are people engaging? Are we just having things shut down and shut off? And the other concern is we've seen cancel culture. We've seen people being shut down from jobs and positions and pursued. Well, is it going to be that we've just got a government that doesn't like what people are saying? They're saying that's either Islamophobic or it's far right, as they've said about most of the British public now who are concerned about borders. And we get logged out of things. Maybe our carbon footprint is a bit too much with petrol, and we get stopped, we get fined, we get limit constantly surveyed and monitored, like the councils who want to fine people about not recycling properly in their bins. The whole idea of a big brother state, that we're a walking QR code, a barcode, just like with facial ID.
Walking QR code, barcode. They're getting the idea, aren't they?
None of this was in the manifesto. None of this was in any discussion in advance. This is a desperate attempt, Mike, to control and limit us. And we'd encourage everyone to get involved together and fight back on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to talk to you, Alan.
There you go. Oops. Let's go to Revelation. This is where it's heading. All right. Those of you can deny it, deny it, deny it. All right. Revelation 13:16 is not spiritual. It's literal. Okay. It is a physical device that will be inserted into your flesh. Okay. Let's go to Revelation 13 and 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. And in the Greek, the word mark is charagma, which means a device, an insertion into the flesh. Okay? A etching, a cutting into the flesh. Receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Okay? Foreheads, does that ring a bell? Elon Musky, Neuralink, right hand. People have already been taken that in parts of Europe. I believe it's Sweden, or one of this. I think it's Sweden, right, or Switzerland. One of them. They hardly use cash up there, and I think one of those countries. I think it was Sweden. Yeah, Sweden, that wasn't on lockdown during the C19. Why? Because a lot of them have already taken the charagma, the CHIP. All right, they're pretty much cashless. All right. Now, what did that guy say? You can't buy or sell. You'll be cut off. You won't be able to do shopping. You won't be able to work. You won't be able to use the doctors. You won't be able to go from place to place. Let's go. It's okay to speak. The scriptures are speaking. Yahweh Shemeshai is not a man that he should lie. He's not a man that he should lie. All right. The Lord ain't lying. The Lord is, Yahweh Shemeshai said he's not a man that he should lie. Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, which is 666. Okay? How are you going to buy or sell? Isn't this alluding to that? Didn't that guy just break it down completely? Okay? How come the so-called white man understands this concept? And now if you read probably Revelation 13:16 to these devils, they'll probably say, oh, yeah, that sounds just like the digital ID. Or, and if you mention that, yeah, it's going to go to the RF, to the I, to the D, they'll say, oh, shit, yeah, it's going to go to that. It'll click in their mind. A lot of you sell-out jakes out there, you fake camps, you agents, like the Purple Bandits, I don't know whether I think they know it's the charagma now, but what have they been saying in the past? That it's not. It's worshipping, is dealing with white women and worshipping Jebus or Caesar Borgia. The Edomite image of Jebus. The Edomite image, basically Jebus, is worshipping that. Yeah, you can really, walk into a store and say, okay, yeah, I worship Caesar Borgia. I deal with white women. Yeah, can I have, a dozen eggs, 2 loaves of bread, 4 cans of beans, a bottle of liquor, a bottle of bourbon, How are you going to pay with that? You can take a picture of Caesar Borgia with you? That's not going to be the currency at the time. Okay? Buy or sell. And that no man might buy or sell. All right? So you're going to need this technology in the future to buy or sell. So the people that, have not the covering, so the heathen are going to take it anyway. We don't give a shit about them. But you Israelites out there, you 2/3 that don't have the covering of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, will take it. All right? But the elect are going to be covered. The elect's back might be against the wall, but the Lord was always going to cover them. Okay? Because the Lord said, that his sheep, I'm paraphrasing, of course, his sheep, his men will eat. All right? Whoever his elect are across the 4 corners of the earth, the Lord will provide. Okay? So these are the signs of the times, man. All right? There's a whole bunch of these anti-Big Brother type channels popping up. All right, and Talk TV is pretty decent with information. All right, but anyway, all right. So this is definitely going towards the CHIP, and very soon they will cause an issue or a problem which will make the mobile phone not enough or secure enough to be utilized for digital ID. It will eventually move to taking technology in your hand or forehead. We've already seen commercials of people, alluding to the fact of having technology in your hand, even having a mobile phone in your hand, using that to speak to people. So, Esau likes to, let you know through his comedy, through his commercials, through his skits, through his, documentaries, through his movies, or what they are planning to do. All right, it's called revelation of the method. All right, see, the scriptures are speaking. All right, so we're right at the door of the CHIP or the Charagma, Revelation 13:16 coming into play, World War III, Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30 verse 7, race riots, the collapse of this society, jobs closing. And what did they mention also? Jaguar Land Rover is almost out of business too, right? And that's just one firm. And there's thousands of firms and companies closing, shutting shop, AI taking over. All right, so we are at the tail end of this kingdom. All right, but anyway, all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yashai, Bahashem Makakodash, Shalom Barakar, and Mawatha Bad Babal, Kwam Yashwala. Shalom.